So this video goes along with the slides that are for the introduction to the second act of our book on emotion and thinking about storytelling and emotion. So it says here, a great story does more than represent emotion from a distance. It makes us feel an emotional charge. And so this goes along with our poetry videos. So again, remembering that we're trying to evoke a feeling in our viewer. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about these. So thinking about what we take away from a story, what do we remember later? It usually is something that's going to be tied to an emotion that thing made us feel. It might be something that was funny or really touching, but when we tap into emotion, when we're able to trigger feelings in our viewer, our reader, our users, then we're able to reach them on a level that they're going to remember later. So we talk about emotional intelligence, and we try to train ourselves in it by cultivating empathy. And empathy is the ability to put yourself into the position of someone else. And it's something that's really hard to do, and it does take a lot of practice. So that's something that we want to start practicing now. And it's something that we're realizing is a really key skill in almost any job you go into, in any industry, in any walk of life. If you're able to understand someone else's point of view, then you're able to reach people on a totally different level. And it's really something that is really valuable no matter what you end up doing. So think of your favorite movie, and what's the thing that first pops into your mind when you think of it? Again, it might be a really funny scene or a funny line. It might be something that made you cry. It might be something that scared you. So it's these strong emotional connections that we end up kind of really relating to. Again, it could be nostalgia. It could be that feeling of childhood. Whatever it is, it's a feeling that you remember. So we experience a lot on a daily basis, and what sticks with us are the highs and the lows. We forget about a lot that's in between. This is part of the reason why people often journal, especially on a day-to-day basis. There are often little things that maybe don't seem important at the time, but end up coming into focus later on in life. And a lot of that, again, has to do with how it makes us feel in the moment. In the moment, we experience those highs and lows, and that's what kind of sticks with us in the short to medium-term memory. Now, we can use things like color as a way to evoke these feelings and emotions. So this is an image that's in your book. And it's showing here the intensity of color being linked to an intensity in the feeling of emotion. Emotion plays a vital role in reasoning and in ethical judgment. So as much as the times when we think about we're being really rational, we're actually still having our emotions play a part in it. Emotions are active, embodied responses to people, places, and events encountered in the world around us. So when we encounter someone or something, we don't just have a logical, objective response, but we're going to have responses informed by all of our experiences up until that point and how they play out in our mind and in our emotions. So they're going to affect the design of anything from a font and a logo, again, so if you're taking graphic design, to a wireless speaker, or even a banking app, so something that we think of as totally logical. The success of any product lies not just in its utility, whether or not it actually succeeds in its function, but the meaning that it makes in the lives of its users. So this is something that I want to think about, not just in terms of literal stories that we're telling to people, but the fact that storytelling is embedded in so much of what we do on a daily basis. And that there's a story that's going on when you use an ATM. There's a story going on when you use an app to order groceries. There are lots of stories happening every day, and we use story structure in so much of our life, but we take it for granted. So like our favorite movie, what we remember about an experience is that lingering emotional feeling. So if, again, this is an image from our book, if we think about a user's experience, how we experience what we watch, our movie, if we experience what we read, or what we use on a daily basis, this can be a can opener or your banking app. What happens in the now? That kind of visceral experience that we get of using something, does it frustrate us? Does it make us happy? Or sometimes that experience of what colors that we use, do they evoke certain emotions? Are they cool? Are they warm? Texture? things like that. And then your behavior. Does it work right? That's all the stuff that evokes us in the now. But when we're done, the emotional memory that we get, was it frustration? When things just work, that has kind of a neutral emotional reflective response. If it works really well and goes beyond our expectations, then that can be positive. But that's that reflective part at the end. That's what we take with us into the future, and that's going to inform our remembering of it or not, and whether or not we use something again, we go to it again. So emotions motivate us to develop a relationship with a product, a company, something that we watch, whatever it happens to be. So again, if something just works, think of an app. If it just works, you don't really think too much of it. You don't have a relationship with it. Things you have a relationship with, you have an emotional bond to. And advertisers, people who make things, they really use this in order to encourage us to buy one product, use one service over another. So remember this, and it makes us more savvy customers of the world, savvy consumers of media as well, are people trying to manipulate us. And we can use these tactics against them and try to manipulate others. But hopefully we use our powers for good and not evil. And emotions can often be fleeting. So sometimes we use this kind of fleetingness of emotions in gamification. You want that little serotonin hit of, I hit the next level. And sometimes we use that in things like banking apps or saving apps to try to be like, yay, you did the thing. And you get that nice little serotonin boost, but it doesn't last very long. And so you need to keep going back to it in order to keep getting that little boost. And so sometimes people will use that as a way to keep bringing you back. And there's a quote from The Great Gatsby in your book that hopefully you will look at and maybe will resonate on this kind of emotional feeling for you. So just to conclude, to take away, think about the fact that emotion helps us build bonds with our stories and with the things we use on a daily basis.